Greetings. I'm Michael Quinn Patton. On Valentine's Day, wishing you happy relationships evaluation day. In 2018, writer Sable Yang proposed rebranding Valentine's Day as Relationships Evaluation Day. Well, I'm a professional evaluator, have been for some 50 years, and that caught my attention. How would one evaluate relationships? How would one measure love? Well, it turns out, as I got into this, that there are a number of proposals for how to go about doing this. In fact, we begin with the logic of evaluation itself. As articulated by one of our pioneers, Michael Scriven, to make evaluative judgments, we need criteria and standards, and then measure the performance of the thing being evaluated, in this case love, against those standards to make an overall judgment. And in her article, Sable Yang proposed 3 criteria for relationships: good communication, high level of trust, mutual shared expectations. And there are other criteria. Sternberg, in 1985, developed a triangular theory of love based upon 3 criteria: intimacy, passion, and commitment. And that consummate love was passion plus intimacy plus commitment, formulaic. And then Gary Chapman did a book on the 5 love languages that has sold 20 million copies and been translated into 50 languages, according to the Sunday New York Times this very week. And his 5 love languages also constitute a form of criteria for measuring and judging love, the quality of love: physical touch, receiving gifts, acts of service to those who we love, words of affirmation, and spending quality time. At the Gottman Love Lab in Seattle, they've been studying and doing research on love and couples for several decades. They say that after putting thousands of marriages under a microscope, we now understand the science of relationships. Through groundbreaking mathematical models integrating nonlinear differential equations, we can reliably predict and chart the future course of a relationship. And more importantly, we are now able to provide data-driven suggestions for positively adjusting the course of a couple's life together, essentially formative evaluation. John and Julie Gottman, over many years, observed hundreds of couples, noted their facial expressions, heart rates, blood pressure, skin conductivity, and the words they used in conversations with their partners. They discovered that low-risk couples maintain a, quote, magic ratio, unquote, of 5 positive interactions to every 1 negative interaction during conflict. Interestingly, that's roughly the rule of thumb that we evaluators use in the ratio of positive feedback to negative feedback. We find that we need to give positive findings about the ratio of 5 to 1 for every negative finding in order for the negative finding to even be heard and taken seriously without too much anxiety. Interesting. And so the Gottmans created a love map. Emotionally intelligent couples are intimately familiar with each other's world. I call this having a richly detailed love map, says John Gottman. And the love map quiz asks a number of questions, and it's not just a matter of the answers, but how they are answered, the affect that goes with those answers. Now, another approach to measuring love comes in the musical Rent, which in the hit song Seasons of Love asks 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in a life? How about love? How about love? But how do you measure love. How do you measure those minutes? At the American Evaluation Association last year, a major presentation in the plenary by Cherie Teng and Sammy Nunez was devoted to measuring love in the journey for justice. They said to be sovereign and free, our people need policies made of love, forgiveness, and connections. In their framing, they asked, are we loving bravely enough? And how much am I loving? What else can I do to be in community from a place of love? And how am I wielding power fused with love? They went on to say, this kind of love is not a feeling, but an action, not a noun, but a verb. It is love actively practiced in community, starting with ourselves for positive material change, justice, and liberation. And efforts to measure it will challenge us to bring harmony between our intellectual, intuitive, and spiritual ways of knowing, to see with our hearts and minds. And so this evokes not just evaluative thinking, which has been getting a great deal of attention in the last decade, but evaluative feeling, integrating evaluative thinking and evaluative feeling. They created a scale with 12 dimensions of love, from self-love, loving others, love as a community practice, and love fused with power, and developed a rubric to use with this scale in community work. Another approach came in 2019 at the American Evaluation Association, held in Minnesota, where the ARC evaluation group from Menominee, Wisconsin, now known as Catalyst, had a poetry contest in which evaluators were invited to write poetry about evaluation. And the winning poem was, Evaluation is Making Love to Questions, a lovely Valentine's Day poem, or Relationship Evaluation Day poem. Which brings to mind for me a poem by E.E. Cummins, who in a poem called Voices to Voices, Lip to Lip, wrote, while you and I have lips and voices, which are for kissing and to sing with, who cares if some one-eyed son of a bitch invents an instrument to measure spring with? And so as we rebrand Valentine's Day as Relationships Evaluation Day, perhaps it's not a measuring instrument that we need so much as in-depth interviewing together, asking deep questions, listening, observing each other, being present. Evaluation is making love with and through questions, and listening deeply in relationship to those answers. Rebrand Valentine's Day as Relationships Evaluation Day is not just interpersonal relationships, but we evaluate organizational relationships, community relationships, economic relationships, political relationships, relationships to the ecosystem, to love Mother Earth. And so I wish you a happy Relationships Evaluation Day.